what's up? Welcome to the Young Turks. Anna Kasparian, Maytha Alhassen. I don't know why I'm pausing. I don't know where that came from.
It came from my jet lag energy was just transmitted to you.
So I thought I would be insanely exhausted today because it was a long day yesterday. Filled in for John on the damage report, did the main show, did the debate coverage. By the time I got home, it was like almost 10 o'clock. But you did 2 red eyes.
Yeah.
And then came here, which is crazy. Yeah. Insane. But thank you, ladies, for joining us today. I'm really excited about today's show. And we're gonna do a little bit more analysis on last night's debate, which I'm excited about because I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. Later on, we are gonna have a few live hits. John Iadarola and Cenk Uygur are still both in Detroit for obvious reasons. It's the second night of the debate, which we will be doing coverage of. As you know, we're not able to stream the debate as we did back in the day, but right as the debate ends, we will go live and provide analysis, much like we did yesterday. So yeah, that's something that we can look forward to later. But let's get started with today's main show, because again, we do have a little more analysis, and I love going a little deeper in that analysis. So we're gonna do that with Delaney next.
It was standing room only in this pub tonight, and the person who got the most love throughout the night was Senator Sanders.
Trump is a pathological liar.
Now, while that crowd certainly loved the progressives on stage, one individual did not, and that was John Delaney, who was bloodied, politically speaking, by the progressives on stage. In fact, Delaney was so salty about how much he was defeated or how badly he was defeated on that stage that he decided to enter enemy territory, Fox News, and trash Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Take a look. Let's go to video 2, please.
You're talking about Elizabeth Warren because she has a plan for everything, but she's never implemented a plan for anything.
Well, it's not just Elizabeth Warren, it's Bernie Sanders. And I mean, if you take what they're saying to an extreme, what's next? Free vacations, free housing, free everything. I mean, at some point we do have to pay for these things. I believe there is a role of government to do things to give people the kind of opportunity they deserve, like we've seen here in Detroit in the last couple of years, where we've seen a really good turnaround when the government and the private sector actually work together. And that's kind of how I think about the way we should be approaching everything.
So there are 2 things that I would like to debunk from that video, beginning with Brian Kilmeade's accusation that Elizabeth Warren has never accomplished anything or hasn't done anything in government. The whole reason why we have a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is because Elizabeth Warren thought of it, pushed for it, and succeeded in getting that done. That was her brainchild. That was something that she did to ensure that some of these predatory lenders would return the money that they had stolen from American consumers. And that agency, that government agency, has returned tens of millions of dollars to Americans who had been defrauded by these financial institutions. Now, I bring that up because Elizabeth Warren actually accomplished that a while ago when she wasn't even in government. Right, so she pushed for this. She finally convinced Obama and some of the Democrats in Congress to do it. She wanted to head the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Senate refused to confirm her. The Republicans in Senate refused to confirm her. So you know what she did after that? She decided to run for Senate, and she won. Obviously, she's a senator now. So I bring that up because we literally have a government agency that has the responsibility of returning money to defrauded Americans because of Elizabeth Warren, but she hasn't accomplished anything. That's the one thing I wanted to debunk. Before we get to the rest of it, I wanted to get some thoughts though.
Oh, it seemed like it was an incredible cheap shot. Number one, it's unfortunate that Delaney felt he needed to go onto Fox News. But if he got beat so bad by the progressives that he's gonna change parties, I could see that happening. He wasn't that devoted to begin with. But then also to act this way in terms of try to tear down Elizabeth Warren for her just speaking up and calling him out on his mess. Like that great, pretty much observation she made in terms of why one for president if all you're gonna talk about is what you can't do. That's exact purpose and point. You should have a plan for what you can do. And that's not something Delaney had, but clearly he had a backup plan for after he got a beat down, which was to go onto Fox News and cry.
Absolutely, and it is very telling that that's where he went the day after the Democratic debates, because those are his people. His people are not the people who are listening to Warren and Bernie Sanders and raving in the crowd. And you know what was so interesting? What's next? This alleged slippery slope of the promises that are so extreme: free housing, free vacations. Where are they gonna get money for that? Well, guess what? In Denmark, there is no rental economy because people own their houses.
Right.
How do they own their houses? Because the government gives them free money to go to college, so tuition is free, and then they get a stipend. They save that stipend and they buy a place. So actually, it is subsidized by the government, and the government did through the FHA in the 1950s, subsidize free housing for a select group of people. So he is the beneficiary of all that free welfare from the government and also corporate welfare.
So one thing that I wanted, the second thing I wanted to debunk is the notion that these programs are quote unquote free. They're not free. They're funded through US taxpayer money, right? So I bring that up because on one hand, you'll have people like Jake Tapper, who's also very much against these programs. I mean, he won't explicitly say it, but you can tell in the framing of his questions that he's against programs like Medicare for All because, well, what is it gonna do to taxes? What is it gonna do to taxes? You know, in his own weaselly way, pretending as if he cares about the middle class and their taxes going up. No, you care about your taxes going up, right? Like it's very clear. And so they'll argue that, oh my God, taxes are gonna go up because that's how you're gonna pay for it, right? And then you'll have the very same type of people make the argument that these are just free programs, these are handouts. They're not handouts, they're paid for through taxpayer money, but let's keep it real, those tax cuts that the wealthy got to enjoy under the Trump administration, $2 trillion in tax cuts for the rich would have to be reversed. And they don't like it. People like Delaney don't like that. Let me give you some more information about who Delaney is and what really drives him, right? Because these are not the type of questions that get asked of him, and I think it's important that people know who he is. So Delaney, according to Alex Koch at Sludge, Delaney has as much as $3.2 million invested in healthcare companies and funds with health industry holdings. Also, the business-friendly Democrat, a finance executive and a former representative from Maryland, is worth as much as $280 million. That is what drives him, and that is the reason why he is put on that stage to try to tear down progressives who have real solutions to issues that Americans have been struggling with for decades now. Let's go to the next video, there's more.
You know, I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for.
What's your reaction to that? I mean, you're running for president because you're being honest with the American people. I don't understand why people run and then they promise stuff and then it never happens.
Well, that's the response when someone really can't defend their plans. So, for example, if John F. Kennedy, when he said we should go to the moon by the end of the decade in the 60s, someone could have said to him, well, you're not saying we should go to the moon next month, so you're not being ambitious enough. Right, so it's a dishonest, kind of lazy response. It's similar to when they say it's a Republican talking point. You know, that's the problem with the extreme left of the party. When you point out obvious flaws in the things they're talking about, they say, well, that's a Republican talking point. Right. And I'm like, no, it's actually a fact.
So just going back to Ainsley and what she mentioned about people running as president, they get elected and they don't actually follow through with what they promised. I wonder if she's talking about Trump, who campaigned on lowering the price of prescription drugs, who campaigned on, combating immigration and solving that problem, who even said that he was going to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. What happened? Remember when he said he was gonna bring coal jobs back? We did a story about how we've lost more coal jobs under Trump's administration because those jobs, honestly, in today's society are antiquated. The industries are moving away from using coal as fuel. So it's amazing how they can make these arguments in attacking people on the left, but they'll never take a second to reflect on, their favorite candidate or their favorite president who has essentially fallen short on every single promise that he had during the campaign.
And especially the one he ran or seemed to ran the hardest on, which is about Mexico paying for that border wall, which we now see gets to come out of taxpayer dollars. It's unfortunate to see someone like Delaney on the stage with other individuals who are committed to the American people and to the agenda. And it's clear that Delaney's really just trying to fill his own coffers and make sure that he meets his own interests, especially with all of his investments in healthcare as a businessman. And it just makes you wonder, why necessarily are these people there? But as we get to see, in him appearing on Fox News, he's there really to bring down and to knock down the progressives and the lefts who actually want to do something for the people.
Absolutely. And more you see that he is clearly positioning himself as a cool, collected Trump. And that's what makes him so appealing to a Fox News audience. And also this kind of love in America for some strange reason of the entrepreneur-nomics. For somebody who knows how to build themselves up allegedly, because he probably has a history like most of these folks do of generations of wealth, and then using that to create an industry for themselves and then maintaining it by having those relationships within politics so that their interests are protected.
Absolutely. So while you might hear one narrative in mainstream media, certainly on Fox News, about how the moderate Democrats are the ones who have the biggest shot, the poll numbers indicate something very different. I mean, even establishment media, you read the New York Times, you read CNN, everyone seems to agree that the two progressives on stage did really well yesterday. And it's not just about the perspectives of, opinion writers on these publications. It's also about the reaction they received from people. So let's give you a little taste of that. Here's a video from CNN.
Who did you like tonight?
Warren, Elizabeth Warren, I really did.
What impressed you about her?
She know her words. She has answers and solutions. I thought Elizabeth Warren did the best job tonight. She showed passion, empathy, energy, intelligence, grit, toughness.
Some of the centrist Democrats didn't do so well tonight in this room, at least. Governor Bullock, the Congressman Delaney, and Ryan, they got booed at certain points here. Who did you not like tonight?
Delaney's my least favorite by far.
Why?
I don't think he has the solutions that America needs right now.
Sorry. I mean, it is what it is. So whenever someone tries to feed you Delaney-like talking points, just know what the reality is. There's a reason why he's barely even polling. There's a reason why he got the type of reaction he received last night during the debates. And it's not just about Delaney, it's about other candidates who represent the same nonsense he represents, which is the same, incrementalist, let's play patty cakes with Republicans policies. They're not gonna work, they haven't worked. And honestly, the frustration that people felt under the Obama administration for falling short on economic policy that actually helped the masses, that's what led to people, flipping from blue to red. And it's unfortunate because I don't agree with that vote. I don't agree with supporting Trump. He definitely, you can tell he had absolutely no interest in helping the average American. He's been exploiting the system of corruption his entire life. But we need someone better. We need to go back to Democratic candidates who actually do care about the average American, care about economic justice and the American worker.
Yeah, and I think the miscalculation here is that there's an assumption that the Midwesterner is somebody who can be easily pandered to if you say that we have a moderate electable person, but actually that's the mistake. Yeah. And that's the mistake because the person in the Midwest, the person who's the most downtrodden on because of all those policies, guess who's sounding really good to them? A Warren, a Bernie Sanders, even a Marianne Williamson. You saw people in that crowd who were cheering like I've never heard at a Democratic debate based on her reparations argument. This is a Midwestern issue because they are forgotten economically and they're not gonna be easily pandered to.
Yes.
Yep. And I just hope we can all kind of consider this as Delaney's eulogy. Because I'm done, he's done. Okay.
Yeah, we might consider it that way. I don't know if he's in the same camp. But if he wants more of what he experienced last night, fine. It was at least entertaining.
Yeah, he's gonna Ross Perot it maybe.
Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. All right, so now we're gonna switch gears a little bit and go to John Iadarola. John Iadarola is in Detroit. He's in fact at the Fox Theater in Detroit. What's up, John? Looking good.
How's it going, Anna? Yeah, I brought my one nice outfit.
All right, so
what's going on?
Give me the latest, give me the deets. What are you seeing, what are you hearing, what are you looking forward to tonight?
Well, what I see is, we've got the debate hall right behind us. Across the way, it looks like the Biden and the Yang people were able to get their signs deployed the most outside of the spot where the debate's actually going to be held. I've been talking with a lot of people since last night's debate, and I also expected, like you guys were just talking about, that Delaney was probably kaput. And in terms of being able to make it to the debate stage, that's probably true. But he's also apparently extremely wealthy, and the murmurings I'm hearing are that he doesn't intend to actually drop out for quite a while. Even if he's not on the debate stage, he's going to hang out. And yes, he might not make it on the stage, but he'll probably have no trouble getting back on Fox News.
So John, what is the reasoning or the logic behind doing that? Why would he want to do that, knowing that his political views are deeply unpopular with a party that's clearly moved to the left?
I mean, I don't think this is the actual reason, but one argument would be that he thinks that he's genuinely right and he has to fight back against what he sees as a dangerous turn for the party. No politician's actually that honest, though. I would say that it's possible that he thinks that either this is sort of a moment, and if he holds out, perhaps a future party will find him more appealing, or it could be that he thinks that perhaps some state-level race or something like that, like he might be positioning himself not very well for the presidency, but to raise his profile in advance of either a commenting position on Fox News, a governor's run, or something like that.
John, what has the sentiment been like outside of Delaney? What have folks been saying about the other candidates that we haven't really been hearing in mainstream traditional media?
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm in a different sort of bubble, but this is 100% a bubble here. And I mentioned, I think, in our coverage last night that most of the people in the press room were pretty restrained as the debate was actually going on. There weren't a lot of people who were making extremely clear who they actually supported. There were a few lines, honestly, the lines that you guys pointed out that got a lot of applause and support. I've talked to a few people not involved in all this who were just living in Detroit. I talked with one woman, and she said that she liked Warren. She liked some of the stuff that Williamson said, but she also said that she likes Biden. She said that she finds him to be very charismatic, and he seems like he's always had people's back. So that is one person I talked to, so I think you can take that to the bank.
And John, since you were there last night and you're there this night and you're in that beautiful bubble, what would you say the vibe is like in a different way tonight?
I mean, in relation to what's going to happen tonight, I honestly can't say. I haven't jumped back into the belly of the beast yet. Maybe once I do that, I'll be able to get sort of a vibe for what people are expecting. I've been talking to a few people, and my expectation is that it's probably not likely to be as fiery as last night. Last night, we really saw a clear, I would say, delineation of the ideological battle lines. And we had people defending, honestly, both sides, the more moderate side and the more left side. I think that we might see something like that tonight because there are candidates like Biden who are pitching themselves as, I think more honestly, as a centrist. And then there are people who say that they're now progressives, and to some extent, maybe that's true. I think that there's a divide, but I think a lot of it's feigned. I think that these people, when it comes to at the end of the day, what they actually are looking to accomplish on issues like healthcare, things like that, I don't think there's as much of a difference that will be on the stage today. There might be some conflict because they have to try to differentiate themselves. There's so many people on the stage, but I don't know. On the issues that were talked about last night, the ones that were biggest, I don't know how much honest disagreement there really is.
So do you think that there will be this, is there a lingering question that you think will be the heart or the focus of this debate? So I'll just tell you what one of my predictions is. Now, Kamala Harris has been pretty wishy-washy on Medicare for all. She'll go up on stage, as we know, and she'll say that she supports Medicare for all, and then she'll, back out of what she said on stage later. Do you think that CNN is going to hold her accountable for that? Maybe ask her to really clarify what she means in her support of Medicare for all? And if that's not the issue that they focus on, is there something that you hope they focus on?
It might be that they do that. They did make reference in last night's debate to some of the previous, raise your hands moments. They seem to like using that sort of thing. And so maybe they'll do that again. I honestly, I don't know. They were very willing to use a variety of different centrist candidates last night to try to pick apart, whether you think it was fair or not, Sanders and Warren. I don't necessarily see that happening with Biden. I mean, it would make for an exciting night, and they want ratings, so maybe they'll go down that road. I think the thing that I've been predicting since last night is that we're probably less likely to see sort of a, let's stake out the battle lines on Medicare for all and have people defend their position, and more, can we spur some more moments to attack Biden for particular things from his past? Can we get someone to finally start picking into Kamala Harris's record? I think that all of them have some landmines that they're gonna attempt to exploit them. And I think that a number of the candidates on the stage are going to have seen what Kamala Harris was able to accomplish in terms of her polling and her fundraising, and there's gonna be an incentive to try to duplicate that. I don't know that they'll be successful at it, and it's probable that Biden is gonna be more prepared for some of those attacks than he was last time, but I think that the attempt might be made.
You know, one other thing that I'm very curious about going into the second night of the debate is there's been some drama, there's been some beef between Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard. Like, Tulsi Gabbard isn't really known for attacking people, but you know, she's a dove when it comes to Biden, but a hawk when it comes to Kamala Harris. So do you think that there might be any type of drama or any type of instigation by CNN when it comes to that issue? Because you're right, they do like they love the little quotes that they can use. They love, you know, having some sort of dramatic moment that they can talk about for the next week.
I think that there's an okay chance that they'll bring up the Tulsi comments about Kamala's fitness to be commander-in-chief. That's possible. I don't know that they'll necessarily tie it in with Biden.
I know, I was making a joke.
I mean, the two individuals that I have. Yeah, I mean, it's possible because, you know, she did, you have that triangle of those three, of Tulsi, Biden, and Harris, and you had Tulsi defending Biden against Harris's last attack at the last debate, and now she's, you know, picked this thing with Harris. It's possible that we'll see more to flesh that out. I'm trying to get an idea of what that relationship is. I get the incentive for Tulsi is to draw this back to, you know, her preferred territory is talking about being commander-in-chief, her past in the military, things like that. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't see the context on that last comment to see why she singled out Harris, as opposed to, I mean, you could say the same thing about any number of people on the stage if you want to talk about experience in the military. So I don't know that Tulsi will double down on those comments. It's possible that the moderators will bring it up, though.
Do you think that people, maybe this is too early, are pitching themselves as potential VPs? Especially during this debate with Biden?
Yeah, it's possible, I think. And while it is early, we expect that between this set of debates and the next set, a number of different candidates are going to drop out. So if you're going to hope to do that, you can't wait until December or January or February like you could in a normal nominating contest. You got to get on that now because you might not have much influence later on. I don't know who exactly I would throw into that, but you know, the cabinet's a big place. There's a lot of spots, and not everyone can really be thinking there's a good chance that they're going to win at this point. I mean, if you've been polling at 0 or 1 or 2%, we have to start to wonder what your game plan is, like you guys were talking about with Delaney. And so we might see that. But as you say, it is early, and you never know what could happen coming out of this debate. I think that there are still some people who think that they definitely have a chance.
Yeah, and indeed, kind of piggybacking off of that question, yesterday we really saw kind of Liz and Bernie do this almost tag team thing where they didn't go after each other. Can you foresee any of that happening tonight, and if so, between who?
I don't know that any two people on the stage tonight have both the ideological similarity, but also the shared history as Bernie and Warren. I mean, maybe Castro and Booker. I don't know. I don't see exactly why that would develop, though. Yeah, no, I don't think that we'll likely see that. That's what I was talking about, the ideological divide before. I don't think that we'll have two people sort of set off against the others. I think this is more likely to be a Royal Rumble. Not only do you have, like, you know, the front runner Biden in terms of the polling, but you have a number of different candidates that have staked out very particular issue territory for themselves. So, you know, it's likely that Inslee is going to try to make it about climate change. Gabbard is going to bring up some national security stuff. There might be someone who stakes out territory around immigration or something like that. I think that this is likely to be a far more fragmented night in terms of where the conversation takes itself.
All right, John. Well, we are going to have you take part of our analysis later tonight when we do debate coverage. Thank you so much for joining in and doing this live hit during our main show. Looking forward to speaking with you tonight.
Same here.
All right. And for all of you who are watching now and you're wondering, all right, well, what is the game plan for TYT's coverage for debate night? We are going to basically do the same thing that we did yesterday. The debate is likely to go on until about 10 p.m. Eastern time, but we will go live, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will go live at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So we will start our coverage a little before the debate is over. So you can join us then, and we will provide the same type of analysis that we did yesterday. We'll have some highlights from the debate. We'll break it down issue by issue. Members, you actually have the ability to rewind 30 minutes and watch the beginning of our coverage, so you don't have to miss anything if you decide you want to watch the debate all the way through. So if you're interested in becoming a member, super easy to do so. You can go to tyt.com/join to become a member. And if you're still like a little iffy about it, you're like, I don't know, is it worth it? Is the exclusive content enough to convince me? You get to try out membership. Go to tyt.com/trial, and you get to see what we have to offer for about a week, and then you can make your decision. Again, tyt.com/join to join, tyt.com/trial, just to try it out, and then you can decide. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, Claire McCaskill is sharing her expert analysis as someone who just lost her re-election race.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you wanna get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment.
Welcome back to TYT. I want to give you some info, the 411, on some of our latest partners. The Weekly is one of our latest partners, and this is a wonderful show that you guys should check out on FX or Hulu. The Weekly is one of our newest sponsors, and it airs on FX. Each half-hour episode features a Times journalist investigating one of the more pressing issues of the day, and also brings unparalleled journalism to the screen, from the collapse of the taxi medallion industry to the impact of GM's transformation into an automotive tech company, and I promise you they have other topics as well. Every Sunday, The Weekly tells these stories in an unforgettable way. So you can catch episodes of The Weekly streaming now on Hulu, or you can watch each new episode Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on FX. Also, one of my favorite sponsors, Aspiration. Aspiration is a great place to do your banking. It is a financial institution that will not charge you any shady fees. They will not invest your money in any shady company, including the fossil fuel industry. And they also do pay you 2% interest rate on your savings account. So please check them out, aspiration.com/TYT to open your account. All right, with that said, let's move on.
Free stuff from the government does not play well in the Midwest.
That is Claire McCaskill, a woman who lost her re-election bid in North Dakota, but somehow she's an expert who can weigh in on politics on MSNBC. Now, she shared that expert analysis after the first night of the Democratic debates, and she made a point to specifically go after Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Let's hear more.
America is generally not as far along the left line as Bernie and Elizabeth. Free stuff from the government does not play well in the Midwest because they're just convinced that they're never the ones getting the free stuff. You know, they're working really hard and they can't afford to retire. And that was part of the thing that Trump did. He said, basically, I'm gonna tap into your anger and your angst. We're gonna blame the Mexicans and the Muslims for everything that's wrong with the world. And a lot of people who voted for Barack Obama said, you know, maybe this guy is finally gonna, you know, let's pull the pin on the grenade and toss it and see what happens.
So there's Claire McCaskill, who lost her re-election bid in Missouri, and she lost her re-election bid running as Republican light. But she is on MSNBC giving analysis, arguing that the progressives on stage have no business pushing for policies that are actually pretty popular. And then there's a lot of conflicting, points in what she said there, right? Because she talks about how, look, these people voted for Trump because they don't have enough money to retire. Gee, I wonder why they don't have enough money to retire. I wonder why so many retirees are currently going bankrupt because they can't afford to pay their medical bills, right? But let's talk about how it would be a smart strategy to run as Republican light, because that worked out real well for McCaskill in Missouri. Do you guys want to jump in? Sorry, I know I ranted a little bit too much before tossing to you guys, but it's just frustrating because this country really does reward failure.
Oh God, isn't that true? But only failure of certain people, as we see. And it's interesting how McCaskill just kind of has this viewpoint that it doesn't go well in the Midwest, even though, as we've observed, people there are struggling. They do need help, just like the rest of us do. And also, these are things, this is money that we work for. These are things that are paid out of our taxes that we've contributed from our paychecks. There's no free handouts. This is us being able to get back what we have earned as opposed to it going to major corporations and big farm and everything else that does not trickle down to us and we, the people.
Yeah, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, entrepreneur-omics has a logic to it. And the logic is that if you don't make yourself from something, this imaginary, invisible something, then you don't want to work, and you're a bad person if you don't want to work, and you rely on other people and their savviness to make themselves to give back to them. And so it's created this idea of a philanthropic class.
Yes.
And that philanthropic class it's such a what is that? Oh my God.
Two-way street?
No, sword.
Double-edged
sword. Thank you. You guys, I haven't slept in 48 hours. It's such a double-edged sword because here's what happens. They get revered for being able to make that money as an alleged entrepreneur or business person. And then they say, oh, guess what? I'm gonna give it away to you and you have to applaud me for being that kind and giving. But really, the foundation is a setup to keep their money.
Yes.
It's a setup to keep themselves from being taxed. And that's what, again, going back to Elizabeth Warren, all people want is fairness.
Yes.
They want to get the fruits of being taxed at a percentage that's higher than wealthy people. And that's what they want. I just, like every other country in Europe, want to see that my tax money that's being taken out every single paycheck is gonna give me something and not give a Delaney something and not give a Trump something.
Exactly. I mean, and try to think of it. I mean, people think politics is way more complicated than it needs to be. It's not that complicated. Think about it in your own terms, in your own life, what you spend money for and what you expect to get back, right? So I like to think of it as every month I have to pay the homeowners association a certain fee, right? And that fee goes toward maintaining the grounds, paying for the water bill, whatever it is. Imagine like paying that fee every month and having the head of the HOA tell you, okay, here's the thing. We're not gonna give you free water. You're just looking for free water, and that's unacceptable. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this money and we're gonna bulldoze the building next door because we don't like the head of the HOA in that building, right? I mean, that's essentially what our government does. Our money goes toward nonsense wars, and we purposely do it because, hey, the private contractors love those giant federal contracts, right? They love that taxpayer money. I mean, we gotta pay Boeing, we gotta pay Raytheon, we gotta pay all of these defense contractors. That's where the money goes. And then little by little, they keep cutting taxes for the wealthy, again, lately to the tune of $2 trillion over the next 10 years. And then they also start defunding programs that help people who need it. I would much rather have my money go toward keeping children in poverty fed in America than giving contracts to defense contractors.
And also when they do have those quote unquote programs that are funding people and trying to make up for historic inequalities, they have conditions, right? If you are a woman who is on welfare, you have to be a single mother to receive that money. And so it prevents her from having any sort of real relationships with other people.
Such a good point.
And so people are in a permanent class of poverty and always vulnerable to any sort of hit. Like what I really love that Elizabeth Warren's messaging around healthcare is that people are pretty much a healthcare bill away from poverty.
Yes, that's right. All of us.
All of us. And we are that vulnerable, whether you are in the working class, whether you are middle class. And so to not talk about why we're in that position that has been the result of decades of endless wars, decades of giving tax breaks to wealthy Americans, not even rich, we're just talking about wealthy. We're talking about 0.01% of Americans who outsource all your jobs too.
Yes, that's right.
So we're getting the raw deal. You're going back to the HOA, and the HOA is supposed to provide you with water. The response is, oh, you're lazy. Why don't you go find your water?
Exactly.
You paid me money, but you're so lazy you can't put your little rain collector
So the rage that someone would feel if they would be confronted with that type of situation is the rage that they should feel toward our federal government and people like McCaskill. And honestly, people felt enough rage to vote her out of office, which is why she lost her re-election bid, which we'll get to in a second, because I want to give you some commentary on that. But I want to share some tweets that I thought were fantastic in response to what McCaskill said. This is from Waleed Shahid, and he writes, "Free stuff from the government does not play well in the Midwest, Claire McCaskill. Number one, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar are also from the Midwest. And obviously they champion the types of policies we heard from the progressives on stage last night. And also number two, Medicare and Social Security are both technically free stuff and they play very well." Now, look, the second part, I really wanna move away from using the right-wing framing on these programs. They're not free, right? These are not free programs. These are programs that are paid for by the US taxpayer. This is money that we pay into the system, and it should go back to helping us, to helping our peers, to helping our fellow Americans, right? Let's move away from that Republican talking point. Now, by the way, and Shahid is amazing, and I make that mistake as well. Like when I refer to the pro-life, the anti-abortion group as pro-life, they're not pro-life. I mean, they sit by and they watch these migrant children die at the border. They don't care. They're not pro-life.
They're championing executions all over the country.
Exactly. So let's move away from that framing. Let's not use their PR stunts to make them look better than they really are. So Parker Malloy writes, out of curiosity, why does Claire McCaskill have all this free time to be paid cable news commentator again, or to be a paid cable news commentator again? It's a great point. And then I want to read a few excerpts from the New York Times. This is a piece from 2018. Beating back a liberal suburban groundswell that proved lethal to many House Republicans, Josh Hawley claimed victory here on Tuesday over Senator Claire McCaskill. So this is the night that she lost, toppling one of Senate Democrats' last remaining moderate voices, the Associated Press said. Ms. McCaskill turned heads in the campaign's closing days by backing Trump's polarizing approach to a caravan of asylum seekers marching toward the southern border and releasing a radio ad that described her as not one of those crazy Democrats. She later elaborated on Fox News. So, seems like a great expert to have on a program to do analysis on what does and does not play well with voters.
She definitely seems to go with whatever side in the moment could possibly benefit her, knowing she's on her way out of office. And hey, she's gonna need a job, she's gonna need opportunities. And so we see her pretty much almost speaking out that Republican rhetoric and keeping that dialogue going to help that side. And it's just, it really is unfortunate to see this, especially because so many people are struggling, and the thought in their mind by planting that seed that this is a handout as opposed to something you've worked for is very damaging, because they may actually turn it away out of ego and pride. And that really becomes an issue, because then you start having the poverty that becomes even more problematic and becomes more systematic. And that's a big thing.
When we come back from the break, I will read your tweets, and we'll also show you some highlights from Cenk's interview with Marianne Williamson.
Yay.